Welcome to the wastewater treatment plant in North Wells, Pennsylvania. Today we're doing a preliminary demolition walkthrough. This is the maintenance building to the treatment plant, main entrance. This is where trucks will be coming in and out in the top side. To our left is where they did some earthwork. This is the up top staging area around the maintenance building, which stays. There is some academy here that has large potholes in all the townships, putting stone in them. It's all the way around most of the road. This is where they put new grass and seed. When we came in, somebody had already drove over it and ran over it. There's dips and stuff when it was muddy. That was there when we got here. It's a fair parking area. The blacktop is got a lot of potholes and damage throughout the driveway. In the interior of the plant, inside the fence. Again, the township was there throwing just loose stone in and trying to pack it. This is, again, part of the driveway. In and around the entrance area, you see where they put new stone in. Again, it's just loose. The fence is in really good condition along the front side, no damage in it. On the corner of the maintenance building, there appears to be a chip out of some of the cinder block and a crack about 2 blocks in, about eye level. No other damage really found along the back other than the driveway being pretty choppy. Just want to bring to attention, which I'll do again, the telephone poles out front both have transformers. They're live and active. The one to the left was leaning to the right from the back to the front when we came into the site before we did anything. Again, the exterior fence, I would say half of it is visible, the other half is in vegetation. These are 2 manholes and some aluminum that was stockpiled on it when we got here. The divot in the grass there was there before we got started also. Again, we're not going to be doing any work at this area. Everything will be to the right. That's our first tank. That's IMOFF tank. It's a large one, and then there's the IMFHOFF tank to the left. It's round. Again, no existing damage on the building out here. In the tree line, there's a trailer, has some kind of tank on it that's behind our silt fence that's buried against the fence that's covered in vegetation. We're leaving that there. We made them aware it was there. We know what it is. Forks for a machine, probably for a rubber tire loader. Again, not ours. We're just going to leave them there or move them out of the way. Again, just the grass and around the shed up top. There's not a whole lot. There's the telephone poles, the one leaning to the right from the back, and transformers, all active. Again, this is the top of where the demolition is going to start. These are the walls to the IMOFF and the IMHOFF tank. This pad's existing. I believe it stays with the shed. This is our trough coming out that they are capped off, and new manhole coming down. That's all going to come out to the left. I also like to document underneath the telephone pole there on the ground that we have our power lines were laid out for us. Existing water or anything else coming through there, not documented. I believe there's water coming through there, but only the electric was documented on a 1 call. This trough to the right in the building to the left, the trough that's going to be coming out, everything to the right is going to be demoed. The inside interior, where the blacktop is in and around, has potholes, large potholes and holes. Again, that's all going to be coming out. There's one of the potholes. A lot of water, I guess, over the years gone down, and it goes down in between and around the tanks. At this point, these tanks have been cleaned. Troughs have been cleaned. Everything up top has been cleaned. Again, there's a telephone pole with a transformer that sits about 20 feet away. Again, we have the troughs down through the middle that went to the smaller trickling tanks. They've been cleaned. They're all coming out. Again, the markings on the ground of just the electric laid out so far. The grass spots that were already in existence before we got started. Here again, we have our IM off tank, the large square one. It's been completely drained, cleaned. There's a fire hydrant in the middle with a hose. That's still active, that goes down through the center of the plant to another existing fire hydrant straight down the roadway, which we'll show you later. Again, this has all been cleaned. This is all coming out. Again, we're just going over and documenting the tanks that have been cleaned and everything that's going to be coming out in its entirety. From that back wall, this tank going down the hill is all going to be demolished. This is one of the sludge hoppers in the middle of the large tank. It's a flow hopper, or the large tank to the right. Most of the grading and all that stuff was already off the top of the tank when we got started. You'll see that there's only partial walkways. When we got started, a lot of that was already missing. I believe that's what's piled over on the two manhole covers back in the grass area when we first got started. Again, this is our telephone pole that's leaning to the left from the other side. And this is showing a lot of the great work in the middle, and a lot of the safety factors were already removed from the top of the tank. Again, the large tank from a different angle, and the telephone pole from a different angle that it's leaning. Again, this is all being demoed. It's all been cleaned. All right, again, in between the tanks up the top, we have a fire hydrant. All the lines here were existing. That tank is the IMHOFF tank. And the troughs again. I just want to note the fire hydrant is one of three. Two of them are active on the site. I believe that the water runs down through the middle. This is one of the inflow troughs that's been cleaned. Again, our leaning telephone pole and transformers, all live and active. The metering gate comes out there, the metering valve comes out there. This is the round, larger tank. This is troughs leading in and out into a little retention runoffs that have all been cleaned and limed. All the existing pipe work, hoses and whatnot you see laying on the ground were on the facility when we came here. The hoses and the PVC and other stuff laying on the ground were also here when we started. This is showing after this has been drained, the IMH off tank has been cleaned, drained, pressure washed, bleached. I believe it to be 31 feet deep. This all comes out. Again, a shot from the tank back up to the maintenance. Everything from that small trough wall where you see the small shed again and down is in contract to come down. We're now looking down at the trickling filter 1 and trickling filter 2 and the roadway that comes into the bottom entrance of the site. That's the gate area that comes in down through the bottom. There's actually a fence there that locks. This is one of the small overflow valves out of the IM off tank, and there's another one in the middle. They've both been cleaned, limed, and are ready for demolition. Again, this is a top to bottom view, heading to the bottom of the property. Again, this is the trickler filter tank 1. This is another shot at a different angle of the corner of the building that was slightly damaged before we came in. That's on the back side of the building. The one that was shown earlier was the front side of the building. Both around the driveway side of the building. This is trickler filter number 1. It's been decommissioned, waiting for demo after the okay of parasites and stuff are leveled okay. Again, these are reservoirs that came off the larger tanks. All this hose was existing and laying here when we came. Buckets, small debris, trash, PVC, throughout the property, running down through. You'll see that there's gates leaning against the wall there and stuff that they use to close off the troughs and stuff like that, the surrogate areas. They're just laying around on the ground. This is midway down away from the larger tanks, looking back up to show you another angle of what the telephone pole where it leaned. Gate valve keys hanging up and out of pits and trenches. This was all existing before we got started. And again, this is our number 1 trickling filter. It's been shut down. This tank's in fairly bad shape. This tension and manhole that was there in the center. There's several other ones that are on site that not documented well. It probably should be brought to someone's attention. Again, this is just how the site was found before we started. Again, I'd like to make note of the 2 manholes next to that tank that are in the grass, that are existing. This is a different angle of the trickling ponds. We're now in the lower level in the driveway. Again, the driveway's like up top. It's blacktop, but it's in fair condition. It's got a lot of potholes. This is the area in which where the building they had a dryer beds that we're standing on. This is their new metering system that was just installed that runs to another plant, and electronics and metering equipment. This is where all the flow's getting diverted through. Down to the left where the machines are is the sludge drying bed area that they already done and seeded and put, clean fill and seed on. I also want to note that coming down through the middle, you'll see totes and containers to the right. They're all chemicals. They were here when we got here. This was looking back up the hill at the bigger tanks that we looked at originally. And the maintenance building, the entrance comes in from the right into the grass and turns left and comes down the hill. Again, you can see the blacktop. It's pretty rough, a lot of potholes and breaks in it. This is where all the raw storage is now going. It gets diverted to that and goes down to the metering pump, in which I just explained to you, and travels down the left side of the property to the bottom, makes a right and goes out through the bottom side and across the creek. Everything up from the building down in this point is going to be demoed, the manhole, the pipe coming across. Everything at this point is demolition coming down. This has been abandoned. The electric is, I believe, still on, but diverted. It has to be cut off before we start demolition. Again, we're looking down the property, coming in through the bottom gate. Again, all these troughs and all have been abandoned and cleaned. The electrical boxes leading up to them and the pumps, we still have electric activated on site. That's the new manhole coming in where raw storage comes out of the township into that, and underground goes to right. These electric panels are still hot. They're all coming out. Again, another shot of the telephone pole leaning heavily. These troughs right here are where the demolition starts. These have all been cleaned. Again, chemical drums and stuff in the back side of the building. I believe it's hydrogen peroxide, 50%, chloride, and some other chemicals that are still on site that they're supposed to dispose of before we start demolition. A lot of hose that's not ours or the environmental crews that were just laying out on the ground. This is leading back the main trough. When the sorts came in, it got diverted out of, used to come down through this flow and into the larger hoppers of the IMO off and the IMH off tank. This was one of the pump housings. If you notice that the green manhole, that's the new where they pump the sewer into now. And everything from in front of the gate you see there coming back into that trough has been cut off and capped. So the storage goes right into there now, and the plant no longer is taking storage. Again, this is down at the bottom gate, looking out at the tanks at the bottom, the trickling tanks. You can see the hillside and the roadway, the erosion in the blacktop and the shape of the blacktop here at this point. Again, fair but choppy. This is the bottom entrance road coming in. It's very tight. It's just a gravel road. It actually, there's places along it where when it rains, there's runoff, so there's like dips and cuts in it from the water. It's not blacktopped at all. It's all stone down through this tight, narrow area. Again, you can see how tight it is coming in through the bottom. There's trees. This is a very sharp corner coming off from the front gate into the bottom gate. It's very tight. Again, it's not a paved road. It's just regular stone. It runs along the back side of homes where you see the fences sitting there. The fences are barely like right on the road. Again, it's showing some of the runoff and how tight it is. And back to plan again, this is the metering pit. looking down into the sludge drying beds and the trickling filtering tanks and back up to the top of the plant. Again, you can see that the driveway here, a lot of erosion. This is the metering pit again with the flow where the sewage is leaving the plant now. They run straight down through that grass line where the sludge drying bed used to be. That's been all backfilled, seeded, and grassed again. It comes from the top of the building towards us and down to the bottom of the plant to the fence line, makes a right, again goes out into the creek into another facility. I'd just like to bring your attention to some of the damage that's in where the sludge drying bed used to be. It's new seed and grass, but there's spots in it that were damaged before we got there. The grass is tore up. Again, here we are at the trickling beds. Again, just showing some of the roadway and the trough and the runoff of what the road and some of the stuff that was laying around. You'll notice that the trickling tank that was to the left had a steel band-aid on it. Here was another spot down in the sludge drying bed that it was there like that. No grass was growing on it. Same as you look down in through, you'll see where there's been runoff. This is all freshly laid sod and grass. Here's one of the manholes coming from the metering pit down to the sewer line. I believe it's the first of two that are in the property. It's down at the corner, and then we make a right, and it'll go down next to the clarifying tank. There's another one, and then it makes a right and goes out under the fence and under the creek to the next spot. The tanker you see in front of you is sitting at the end of the roadway at the bottom of the site, down near the clarifying tanks and the chlorine contact tanks. This is looking back up to help my truck. Again, the roadway, you can see potholes coming down through there. You can see the chemicals to the left that need to leave site. We have a manhole that's sitting under dirt, under a plate. This is the last manhole leaving the site, down next to the clarifiers. They're being cleaned. This is pumping this clean water out of the chlorine contact tanks. We're responsible to take clean water off the top, leave 10 inches, and then have it cleaned. As you see these tanks here, there's a small building that used to be the maintenance building. It has some metering and whatnot in it that's coming out also. These tanks are coming out. This one's been cleaned. I just want to bring point to the clarifier tank that's in two sections. Groundwater's coming into it. On the tank to the right, standing on the roadway, one of the valves is not holding, and it's coming in. And in the tank on the left, two valves aren't holding. These are the chlorine contact tanks. They were pumped and cleaned. Right now, it's groundwater sitting in them. A heavy rain over the weekend before this video is why there's water in these tanks, but they have been cleaned. They also get demoed. You can see there's PVC and stone in between them. I also want to point out the tanks of gas that are leaning against a small building straight out in front. They need to be removed. We have water lines that run down underground here. This is another outlet down next to the silk fence. I believe that's a pump station. It's a 8-inch valve pit. That also is going to be removed. Again, groundwater's getting into these tanks down the bottom, very soupy. Silk fence and erosion protection has been put up via contract and scope of work planning on the prints. The orange, this is on the outside of the fence. There's another manhole. This isn't anything to do with us, but I just wanted to document that the silk fence was left up from prior, whatever they did on the site. They just left it up on both sides of the creek. That's on, again, the outside of the fence, not in our scope of work area. Again, the ground's real saturated down through and around them tanks from runoff. And again, this is the clarifiers that are being cleaned and pumped out. This would be the end of our scope of work, comes to where the pump well is. In the video you see here, this tank next to the silk screen would be the last tank at the bottom. Again, here, them bottles, I'm not sure what they are, chemicals, they need to leave the site. Again, we're into the chromium contact tanks. Now, in between here, there's another sewer line, and these sheds and buildings are obviously, they're getting taken down. I have chemicals inside that building and outside the building and down the roadway. They'll have to leave. Again, this is equipment and containers and stuff that was just left here before we even got started that's leaning against walls, chemicals and stuff. Again, a lot of stuff is supposed to be going out. It has to be removed before we get started. This is one of our fire hydrants that sits down next to the clarifier. That particular hydrant has been decommissioned, and if you look out across the field, there's a white pipe. We'll get to in a minute. This fire hydrant's been decommissioned. This white pipe is the reason why that, when that was decommissioned, I was told there's two hydrants. There's a hydrant to the left of this white pipe. When they were installing something, they broke a water line and didn't know it for quite a while. And what ended up happening is it undermined, and we ended up that they have water leaving the property at that point. Again, in this field right here, you'll see a small white pipe that's sitting right out front where the dirt patch is. The pipe, they don't know if it's still running, but it was undermined, and it's just draining water right there because of the pipe. Again, the white pipe sitting up right there. There was a broken water line at one time, and it undermined everything. These are the troughs coming out of the trickling tanks that run down into the, chlorine contract tanks. Again, another shot of the chemicals that were left on site that need to come out. That's an active fire hydrant. Off of that hydrant leading back to that area I was telling you where it's undermining. I was told that that fire hydrant to the one going to the bottom is capped, but somewhere from that point over has been broken. They're not sure if it's been capped or not. Again, this is the last active fire hydrant. This is a silk fence running on the bottom side of the chlorine tanks and clarifier, coming back up the hill. These tanks all come out. You see some debris laying out at the bottom there. There's a couple drums and other stuff that's just laying on the ground. This is the perimeter of the fence that we really can't see. It's under vegetation to the left. Now to the right, silk fence running up along the fence, leading from the bottom from the clarifier up into the trickling tank, in between trickling tank and trickling tank number 2, where there's another pump station, 8-valve pit. Behind you'll see hay where there's a drain that leads directly into the creek. The silk sock picks up around trickling tank filter number 1 and goes up the hill. This is the in-between runoff area. Again, I like to bring the attention to the trickling tank. This is number 1. It has a lot of erosion. They actually put a metal blanket around it, I'm not sure when, to contain the wall. Again, the silk fence running up the outside perimeter, the backside of the property, up and around the IMO off tank, leading up to the front. Again, this is the trickler tank that has been repaired. This all comes out. This is heading back up towards the top. Again, the grates that had aluminum stack piled on it, and they are water. That is a water metering and backflow preventer in them pits. And then this is the very first fire hydrant up between the two. It's getting decommissioned. However, when we got there, the gate valve on it was cracked. It must have froze over the winter. So when you open it, it's broke. Just wanted to document that, even though it's coming out, that there's water that has been going down through the ground over the years when they've used their hose. Who knows where the water is going and how long it's been broke. So just to document that this has been how we found it. This is the first fire hydrant at the top. These are the pits again, just showing that they did clean, and it rained, but they did lime. You'll see lime on top of the cap. There's some lime on the wall, but these pits have all been limed and cleaned. Again, that's one of the pits that have had lime in it. It rained over the weekend, but these have all been limed. And this is trickler and tank number 1. Just want to take a better shot now that it's been shut off and the water's drained and is drying up in it. You can see the bad erosion around where the walls cracked all the way around and where they had put a metal band around this. Just want to state that this particular tank appears to be made of stone and has been concreted over stone. It's not solid concrete. It is in a catch basin. However, we're not sure until we get into demoing what's going to be underneath of it, only because it's not a solid concrete tank. It's a stone and like screeded tank. So we're not sure what we're going to get into when we start taking that particular tank apart. The other one is the trickler tank number 2 is solid concrete, but this one is like a stone with a plastering over it, and then they put a Band-Aid over it with a metal band. This is in the lower level parking lot. I was told that the only drain that inlet protection we have to do in the parking lot, that was hit by a snowplow. And this is what the roadway looks in and around it. They got a plate laying over top of it right now. And runoff, again, the road's not in real good condition, but I've seen worse. Small cracks and grass growing on it. Again, there's just one outlet, one outlet that we have to protect there. And that was the one that we showed you prior that was damaged by a snowplow. That'd be in that dirted area. Again, cracks and breaks in the academy. Leading back up, again, another large pothole. Another large pothole. Again, this is coming in from the bottom entrance down. Again, this is the roadway coming in, standing on the hill, looking at the new sewer metering system that runs out to another facility. This is looking down over the property of what's existing and mostly everything that's coming out here.